Well, greetings, YouTube. Those of you who know what this plug is know what's behind me. And that is the old school Electrolux upright. Now, I was just going to do a brief overview of this vacuum. It was one I acquired many years ago, and it was in good condition. I got it for 10-15 bucks at a thrift store. But it needs a little bit more TLC. So we're going to go through, we're going to give it a basic strip and clean out and really kind of give it what it deserves, because this is quite the gem. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this machine, it's very quirky. I think the biggest quirk about it is there is no pedal release, so to speak of. And you don't just step on the base of it, it's firmly locked. That's because the pedal release is up here. So if we look at this, next to the on-off and the lock. So if you see the lock, I'm going to press the lock button up here, and there you go. So there's the lock. It does not go all the way flat. Now, there's quite a bit going on here. And how this works, it's very modern actually. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to break it apart and clean it. There's also a pile adjustment on the side over here, and that's it. There's no bare floor, there's a shag, a low pile. That moves. I don't believe there were tools available for this. Now correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. I'm going to show you what the bag looks like. It's pretty decent size. That's what the seals look like and all that stuff. So we're going to rebuild this and see what it needs. So let's look at the base of this thing first, and we're going to start there, just like any other vacuum. Let's see what's here. A metal base plate with machine screws, short machine screws. See, the base plate has tons of schmutz. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the brush roller doesn't just pop out of here. It actually comes out the other side, but we have to pull the cover off for the other side. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Long screws. Second one did not come out the way it should have. Hope nothing is broken in there. There we go. Now those covers should just pop right off. So we're going to flip the machine on the back side. Then we're going to undo 4 screws. And now this part's real weird because there's a spring in here that's going to pop. And it's already made the pop. I did that off camera. Because this thing has security screws. Security screws are really funny. So you can quickly get around a security screw just by cutting a slot. I do have a set of security screwdrivers, and I just could not find them for the likes of me, so I just decided to bypass that and just make them normal screwdriver friendly, if you would. So now, let me grab this guy out of here. Now the cover comes off. So now we're going to see some really cool things. Like the size of this motor. It's huge. Really big. Now this is almost SIBO-esque. There's a clutch here. There's a clutch and there's 2 lifetime belts, which for a machine that was made in the 1970s, really cool stuff, really revolutionary for its time. We also have this bypass motor, and again, this thing kind of looks like a SIBO on the inside, and that's not something you would expect for a machine of this age. And the cleaning path's real interesting, because it goes up, and center feed goes up through here, through the side, goes all the way up your bag chamber, and then at the bottom of the bag chamber comes all the way down. Now I also have some loose screws here I gotta figure out. I see a little bit of bad news is this machine being from New Mexico, I see some rubber grommets that are dry rotted. It's got an O-ring that's dry rotted here, so that will need to be replaced, sadly enough, which means this machine is not going to get fixed as fast as I had intended for it to get fixed. But nevertheless, now I gave this machine a good proper service before putting it into storage for many years. Believe it or not, there was a time where I didn't have my vacuum cleaner collection at all. It just was in storage. And now it's not, of course. Just looking at what needs to be done here. So this will get fully broken down. This will get dishwashed. So let's take the brush roller out and start there, I guess, because that's kind of a cool thing how that comes out. Actually, that's all it's screwed in, I think. Again, it's been many years since I opened this particular version up, but it's really kind of cool how it comes apart. So now, just like a SIBO or something, you're going to need to loosen something to get this belt in here. In this case, the motor, by the way, is on rubber motor mounts. I want to point those out there, because that's just super cool. Kind of like the old sewing machines were in there. That would definitely reduce vibration. So in this case, we're going to switch screwdrivers. In this case, we're just going to do all of this. Excuse my sloppy camera work. Ooh. That was on there. And with a machine this old, you got to be really careful. You don't want anything breaking because it's basically not replaceable. The O-rings, though, I think I'll be able to go to the hardware store and get a set of those. The rest of this. Ooh. So what definitely happened is, after buying this machine at a thrift store, I quickly cleaned it a little bit, lubricated it on my workbench at the time, and then maybe a year later or less, it got put into storage. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, I went down and got it. Brought it up. And at the time I was living in an apartment and I was not going to have room, so I gave it to a friend for safekeeping, who actually, curiously enough, had one of these as well. So when I went to pick it up from him, about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it was. Now it's gone over 2 years now. We moved in this new house. When I went to pick it up from him, we had them both next to each other. I'm trying to figure out which one's which, and we kind of looked at them, and we determined his is probably the one in the better condition of the two. I thought it was in much better condition. And I guess, I mean, for its age, it's in good condition, but it still needs so much love compared to a lot of my stuff. So we're going to give it a proper overhaul. So the first thing I'm going to show is this, which is on sleeve bearings. So again, very much looks like a SIBO. Yeah, I can see there's still, Tri-Flow is still wet that I put in there. Even all the way back then I was using Tri-Flow. You can see that there's a Sharpie on one side. I don't know if I did that or they did that in this clutch. That's how it slips. So that's really kind of cool. Again, flat belts, no belt changes needed. Oh, I just dropped a washer. Suspect that washer goes in between the clutch. So we had to do all that just to get to the brush roller. So imagine it's the 1970s back then, and just to get to these belts or the brush roller, you needed security screws. I cannot imagine what that was like back then, because Torx were really well, you know, received by the American public, and this machine was made in the U.S. Sleeve bearings on that side. Again, you can see some remnants of the Tri-Flow oil that was used back in the day. So this brush, it's filthy. I'm gonna go wash this. I can't believe I took this machine and left it in this condition. It just gets me. Grab this. Come on. Some of this rubber is like really in between dry rotted and not. So what we'll do is we'll armor all our glycerin in it. Again, that's real dirty. That needs to be cleaned out. I should have put gloves on. Again, I thought this machine was cleaner. I thought I was just going to pull the cap off and show you folks what was going on, but then I got really looking at this, and that is not what's going on with this machine. So we are going to continue the breakdown. So this has to get separated, and there's a wire running up. There's two wires, presumably on and off, and there's also a bag check up in there somewhere. So this is going to be kind of an interesting breakdown, considering I've never broken it down past this point, and there just aren't enough of these around. But of course, if it was common, I guess I wouldn't be doing a video on it. We are already on quite the pile of screws. This is really well built. It's heavy and awkward compared to today's standards, but this really would have been a technological marvel at its time. I don't even see how that quick disconnect works. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Ain't that something? There's little quick disconnects in here. It's just full of surprises. Hook up. All right, there's that. That appears to be glued in. I'm not really going to mess with that, but I'm curious of the fan design. I think we're all a little curious what that fan design looks like. So, let's take that apart and see. Brilliant. Oh. Right. This is so weird how this goes through here. Again, some of this reminds me of sewing machine parts. This guy particularly right here, these were used very commonly in sewing machine foot pedals back in the day. Trying to pull this grommet out. Guess we're just going to force that out like that. The grommet was in two pieces. Really just strange, convoluted airflow path. Speaking of convoluted airflow path, if you look at this, this is just very strange. We've never seen anything like this today. In fact, that needs to be washed anyways. You see the schmucks. It's just nasty in there. Appears to be double fan. So we're going to set that off to the side. We'll finish pulling that apart later. That's kind of gross. So now we've got, this thing should just lift out of here. Yeah. So now on the base of this, got this very strange ratcheting mechanism. I don't like to put this sort of stuff in the dishwasher because it corrodes it, particularly the spring back here. I don't know if you guys can see that big spring. And that is a different size. I bet you that will just fit in there. Nope. These are all wonky sizes. It's really nice machine screws. You can see this guy. That guy will have to, maybe I'll bead blast that. You know, honestly, the rest of this would dishwash just fine. Especially this, if I just clean this up later. Yeah, we're just going to dishwash all that. This will be quite the interesting project. My wife will not like this. She really doesn't like it when I dishwash this thing, these sort of things. So let's get to the meat and potatoes, the rest of it. I'll move your camera a little bit. So, we're just gonna pop the rest of this apart. Very strange. What was this part? You know, from the looks of it, looking at all this, looks like some screws have already fallen out over the years. Looks of it. That just pops out there. And we have two clips. See, the pedal release was broken on one side. That. Right. Again, there are just these clips, which kind of remind me of the base clips on an old Hoover or something. We have a better way of pulling that apart. Again, the motor's not in here, so that's kind of interesting. Put some weight real down low. Kind of almost like an S7. Let's try that. Nope. It's really narrow. I've got a #1 screwdriver here. See if that guy. #1 did it. Ugh, rust. The other thing that was peculiar is I don't know what this is over here. It's like this cap. So we're going to just play with this cap for a second. See if it's directional. Maybe it comes loose. It spins. Alright. Now we're getting to the good, bad, and ugly of it. Now it looks like somebody wedged this off at one time, which makes me wonder if there's anything in here. Don't see any screws or anything. So, oh, I see how this comes apart. So this guy just pops out there, a clip with the part number. Now, this is exactly like Electrolux 2100 for the rest of this, how it's put together. And that was very modern for its time. Brilliant. This is so brilliant how this comes apart. Alright, let's come on. Come on. Don't break on me. It's holding you together. Oh, there's glue in here. There is literally glue in here. Or double stick tape, I'm not sure. Looks like double stick tape. That's what's in there. Heavy duty. And this is definitely an Electrolux now. We have some sort of bellows in there. Definitely for a manual mechanical bag check of some sort. My goal of breaking this down, oh, there's a piece of paper here. This looks like maybe they have some sort of sticker. Strange. So the kind of cool thing about the old Electrolux is they always used a mechanical system for the bag check. They didn't ever use electronics. Well, after electronics were, you know, transistors were cheap. They weren't necessarily cheap when this was made, but they were still, they were an option and they weren't used. That always has complexed me about Electrolux over the years. You know, I understand the like a you know, a Model G or something's not going to have transistors in it, but all this sort of stuff is of the era. Watch me break this. Again, I don't want to break anything. There we go. Wonderful. So the lock actually operates a cable. This is so cool how all this is put together. I'm gonna zoom in for y'all. So we have the indicator with the very mechanical convoluted rocker switch, and then the lock actually is pushing a cable down here. So now all this should just come off. Get the switch in the right position. Voila. So that is what the inside of this looks like. Oh, we have tape holding the cable lock that actually moves this mechanical section here. Let's see this work. You can see the mechanism right there. Wow, this is really complex for its age. This is complex for today, actually. Some of this, minus the lack of wire, but just it's pretty convoluted. The molding. So many different materials used on this. I'm going to have a lot of trouble getting this apart. This is not going to be pretty. So that explains what that mystery piece of tape was earlier. So everything appears to be pretty serviceable. Minus these covers. That's going to just release the cord. You know, it occurs to me, if you wanted to replace the cord in this, you would have to go this far. This would be really expensive to replace a cord at a vacuum store in the day. I wonder what they would have charged compared to a normal vacuum. All these custom pieces that are just not interchangeable with anything else, which is normal for Electrolux, but I see how that works. Again, just overbuilt. Extremely overbuilt. Section of the switch. Actually, this switch section comes off by itself. Oh, it's only held on with one. That's really cool. So that comes apart. Just like that. And then there's a small piece of G10 holding on. If you're not familiar with G10, G10's kind of cool material. It's a fiberglass resin layered type of thing. I'm going to continue stripping this down until I get the bag chamber out by itself, because I'm going to wash that. This is so cool. Just again, the mechanical thought that went into this. You know, I think this was probably designed by one electrical engineer and probably 15 mechanical engineers, the way this is. It's just, it's completely overthought, overbuilt. guess they weren't lying when they said it was heavy duty. We'll have to rebuild this. At least put something to preserve that. The rubber on there. The wire going through the air path. I think the only other company I've seen do that has been Dyson. It's kind of an interesting design choice. Obviously it worked and stood the test of time. This is much heavier wire than Dyson used on the DC-15 where they did that. Really advanced molding. There's two pieces molded and sonic welded together. Really advanced for the time. Again, everything's just kind of made to be pulled out in service. I mean, I didn't even have to pull that out. There's another set of quick releases. This is being oh so careful with that. It's like a pressed-on ring. This was not meant to come apart. It's bending my pliers. That's how strong this plastic is. It was actually bending my pliers. I might have to cut those rings off and get new ones at the hardware store. Got one off. Again, trying not to damage the G10 or the post they're on. I always hated this type of thing. Alright, got that one off. Again, this piece of G10. They make knife handles and stuff out of this now. They don't really use it for much anymore. Carbon fiber really kind of took its place. Right. So that's this very convoluted assembly. All of which comes off very nicely for service. We're left with a body. This is riveted on, does not appear to come off. There are some other screws here, so we're just going to pull them out real quick. See what's in there. Empty cover. Oh, look at that. Look how that was made. Really different. This is really cool how this is made. There's one piece of rubber that was molded around there. Again, all these things are way more advanced than anything you'd see at the time this was made. Well, that's the breakdown section. We're going to stop the camera now, and this is going to go in the dishwasher and be hand washed. Breaking the motor apart, this, lefty loosey, righty tighty. The fan, rather complex for its day, comes out. Fan baffle, synthetic. The second fan comes out. And the motor and bearing appear to be pressed in there, like so. I had a little piece of metal. Fans seem to look intact. I've seen these fans on the shelf at one of the stores I worked at. I had no idea what they were too. Now I know. Everything else seems to come apart okay. Something I thought was really cool is the fact the motor had a 1/2-inch fitting for a wrench. So again, meant to be fixed from a different time. when we fix things. This is pretty bad. This thing might get a... We can get this blown out. I don't think we're going to wash that. Alright, everything has been washed, and we're going to put the motor together. And I have here the order of which this goes on, in case anybody in the future is watching this video. This guy is in between here.
That's the only spacer in these motors.
And then we have a butt nut. If you have washers in a pile, they go to something else. So
don't ask us how we know.
Put this together. Now, there's some sort of reference to something there. I was kind of hoping there would be a hint. Oh well. That's not what holds this in place. This is actually held in place with these things. So
yeah.
So where is the?
Nope.
Yeah, we're doing this wrong. Doing it wrong.
Yeah, there we go.
Now we put the plastic, and that's what's cool. So, does that look like that was two pieces and that was sonic welded, or how do you think that was done?
I think that's exactly how it was
That's
done.
what that looks like to me.
This thing had some very interesting and very advanced manufacturing
Super advanced
techniques.
stuff, as I was mentioning when I was taking it apart. Super fucking advanced for the time.
Even
it designed in the
chemistry.
70s, and then it was released in the late 70s. So.
I wasn't even aware sonic welding was something that the manufacturer of vacuum cleaners would have had access to or thought to use back then.
Yeah, I mean, they really had some top.
But they went nuts with it.
If anybody knows who engineered this machine, I'd love to know. I'd love to know what else they designed.
This really is an engineer's wet dream of a machine. But that's why it's held up. They didn't cheapen the design from the engineer's intentions.
Yeah, so this sits...
Like that.
This machine sits in there like so, right? And this is sitting...
Like that, yeah.
Yeah,
looks right.
That looks right. So we're going to just put that on. And you can bet your ass I'm going to hand tighten these.
Yeah, no need to go nuts with
the torque.
Yeah. Just snug, basically to where things are not rattling or shifting.
You know, we should look on eBay and see if we can find some vacuum bags for this.
Yeah, we need to reach out to the community. We need to dip that titty in the water and see what we got working.
Oh, I don't know if I can reach out to the community. I'm pretty hated lately. People don't really like me these days. I've called out a few too many people for a few too many stupid things.
Oh, I've done the same, but I guess I've been around longer, so they tolerate it more. I don't know.
I'm also I'm not so nice about it. I'm pretty blunt. Of course, when somebody calls me out, I don't take it too personally.
No, that's the thing. I think they don't realize that it's not really intended personally.
It's never like a... Except for New Balance, man. That's personal. Just kidding. I'm going to just continue making fun of New Balance, man. And I hope one day, like, I can meet him in person, shake his hand, and he understands it's all like fun and games, and not. I hope that guy's not like butthurt over anything, because I pick on him a lot. I pick on myself a lot, so again, nothing personal.
Well, yeah, no, I'm always making bad jokes about myself.
So what's amazing is that went through the dishwasher, and now it's the point where somebody's gonna say my dishwasher is a piece of shit, but it's still sticky. Do you think I should use that gasket with Super 77, or I should silicone salad that bitch?
I don't know. I don't think it needs anything. The gasket's still squishy. It'll seal. If the gasket wasn't squishy, I would say get some weather stripping. But
I'm looking for my spray adhesive. I think we're gonna silicone salad that anyways.
yeah, better than spray adhesive.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not.
Just a very thin coating. We don't want to go too nuts with
I'm
that.
actually going to put it on the inside if I have any silicone left. This GE silicone too is like one great thing for vacuum repair.
I've taken to using E6000. That's what I glue the Kirby fan housings back together with. I'm sure somebody's going to say that's horrible, but
E6000. I don't know if I've used that one yet.
It's
What was
just
that
a very...
tube Thomas gave me the other day?
Oh, yeah, the...
It was like some super stuff. I'm like, I will never be able to get a Kirby housing apart if I use this.
No, that is not something you would use on a Kirby housing. That's not even a silicone. That's a polymer-based.
Yeah, that's I'm sure that's great for roofing though. Like
for anything you want to be glued back together permanently. So if something breaks, you could use it for that, or anything you want permanently put together.
So we put some extra silicone on there just for
The
fun.
E6000 is just a really strong silicone-based adhesive.
Okay. So why the motors together?
And I don't use a lot of it on those fans.
I always wipe off my excess.
I
Those
don't-
things look clean when I'm done.
I actually don't use enough to where I have to bother. I use so little that nothing really squeezes out.
So next thing was I was looking at this, I was looking at how these pieces got together, and I was looking at this gasket, and I was
Looks like
scratching
something off an old Kirby 500 series.
this.
Yeah. The old red trim Kirby's, that's the same
Oh yeah,
color.
yeah, but it's like a completely different
Oh,
material.
I know, I'm just going by color here. It's a color commentary.
Which way do you think that goes on?
Which way do I think this goes on? I'm going to venture the national bet that it goes this way.
That's kind of where I was leaning towards. And it's still good. You know what? We're gonna put some.
Pledge. Oh yes, that's good.
We're gonna pledge her up, but
I pledge to make this go together easy.
nobody's ever used pledge before. Any sort of furniture polish on gaskets. It is.
Or any sort of furniture polish or
Use
Armor All.
works good.
It's basically a silicone based. You could even use WD-40
The
in a
food
can.
grade silicone.
Food grade silicone. The WD-40 in the yellow can that says silicone lubricant will also do the same thing. Is that the right direction?
That's a good question.
It is the question, my friend.
No.
Perhaps we shall consult the base of the machine.
I can tell you no. So this is the front. This goes like this. I know that because I was seeing the vacuum line, but
I've never actually taken one of these.
let's grab the base of the machine. Yeah, that is a good
reference.
That's a good thing to check when we're doing this. And the motor sits in just like so. That means this. Oh. So this is going to sit. There goes my silicone. Oops. So that sits in actually like so. Like actual flat earth. And this does one of these on there.
I've got that backwards.
I'm guessing I do.
Yeah,
That's why we're doing this like this.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But you can't forget to stick your wires through there, it looks like.
No, I can't, but I'm just making sure that I've got everything kind of roughed. And then this, I think that goes like that.
Yes, I do. I think that's how it goes.
Alright, so that's not so important as putting everything else together. There are wires to do, there are vacuum lines, because it's Electrolux. What's an Electrolux without a bunch of vacuum lines? Why do you think it is they didn't use any transistors in this machine? Why use every other kind of modern like manufacturing technique and then skip out and don't
They
use
didn't see the
transistors?
point. They did not see a point. And really, they didn't need them. Yes,
That looks like a Miele S7 right there. The way that this works is just borrowing from the future, I see.
Probably leave the motor in there.
Oh, I have to redo this.
Oh, look at this.
Oh yeah, there's another gasket that's going to go right there. So let's let the silicone dry on the motor, set the motor aside. Now that we've remembered how
Let's
it
let
works.
Sally dry. Dry Sally dry.
And let's work on putting this part back together, which
The upper housing.
is immensely too complicated. What is this? This is like the sort of thing I shouldn't do on camera, but I'm going to do it on camera anyways. So this guy goes on that thing somehow. Reggie's like, I wasn't here when you took it apart.
Oh, I'm looking at this going, oh my. To think I'm going to end up having to do this.
There we go. It almost feels like, do you think there should have been gaskets in those things? Or those things are gaskets in their own way? Okay. So that's how that goes.
It's the shit out of me. I didn't take it apart.
Yeah, this is why we're doing this, because nobody has a video on one of these. And it just happens to be one of those vacuum sealers.
I don't know anybody that's ever had the balls to take one of these all the way apart. I mean, I intended to always on mine because it smells a bit like stale, rotting Chex Mix, you know, that god-awful stench.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants the funk.
No, except for, you know, we want the funk. Come on now.
Oh, well, just, you know.
Give up the funk.
Alright, so I have a separate pile of screws somewhere. Ah, here's the separate pile of screws for this.
Oh my.
Yeah, now you can see the lovely. If you've ever seen Tecmo when he's like, "I love a good mechanism." This is
this whole thing is
this
just
whole thing
quite
is
the mechanism.
This is whole thing is a mechanism, and if I can remember how this goes,
it's mechanism porn. If you got a thing for mechanisms, you got a thing for these.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard the sound of something.
There's a washer right there.
I can't get to it.
Moving the screws in, and we're going to guess which screws go where.
Oh god, that's an excellent policy, my friend.
Alright, so now, something to point out is there are a lot of places like this that only use one screw, like this, that have a plastic clip. So they were really trying to trim it down. I think they were trying to make it for the war effort. I'm just kidding. If you knew in World War II, we did all sorts of things for the war effort.
Yes.
Well, I was going to blow that out. I think we're just going to use some suction.
Well, laws, are we going for the flaps now, honey child?
We're going to get demonetized. Alright, some sweeping flaps on there. Got that. Now, here is the part I thought was super cool.
Oh yeah, where it passes through that.
Yeah, it
that
goes
is
through
really
the clean
funky.
air. Or is that the dirty air?
No, that's the clean air. Or no, that's
the dirty air.
No, where you want it to go is here.
Yeah, it has to go through the clean air.
Yeah.
This is not a Dyson. It's not going to go through the dirty air section. I'm going to cite the DC-15. So it looks like the wires have to go behind here. And you notice there's like quick releases everywhere. I thought that was super cool as well.
I wish that well, that's one thing I've always held against Panasonic with their Kenmore line, is that everything was wire nutted.
Well, not everything was wire nutted. You're lucky if you have wire nuts. Usually they were those
crimp nuts.
Yeah, the crimp nuts. Yeah,
I'm calling that wire nutted, but it was aggravating to me because would it have killed them to just put some modular connectors in there?
I mean, you have to remember that Sears wanted it as cheap as possible.
And it showed. I mean, I was not a fan of the later Kenmores. I felt they were very poorly built compared to other things.
Now it's cool. There are these little sewing machine, like wire stop things, old school wire stop things everywhere. So now that's through. We have to. Where'd the wire? Oh, I just fished it up in the wrong direction.
Oh dear.
That was smart. There's going to be a lot of this in this video. You're used to see me making mistakes left and right.
Well, this is kind of
the first time I've worked on this thing, really.
Well, it's not put together in the way of any other machine that we really deal with as a collector.
No, like I said, the closest thing I think actually to its construction is a Miele S7 is the best, the closest in terms of like the idea, but I think
it doesn't even really relate much to
the upper half, and the bottom half reminds me of a SIBO. Like,
yes, it does. I really am. I was always impressed with that belt clutch.
So this has to ask. I have to ask about the belt clutch. Who was the first one then who really made that?
The first machine I'm aware of that had it is this.
Yeah.
Because this came out well before, what's his name? Stein invented the SIBO.
Stein, you know the guy who invented the SIBO.
I know the name of the guy that invented the SIBO. I've looked at the SIBO patents, that's how I know this.
Alright, so now we've got a mechanism. This is the bag check mechanism. And this...
No, this is the bag presence
bag presence
mechanism.
Hope I'm putting the switch in the right way. So there was...
Well, I can tell you right now if you put it in the right way. Yeah, well the wires are bent, it tells me. That's what I like. You can tell when you're working on a machine.
Yeah, you can tell where the wires
especially at this
go.
age where the wires have all sort of assumed a shape. It is actually very convenient.
Alright, that washer definitely goes under there, I remember that. There's just certain things when I was taking this apart, I was like, oh my god. Really? Alright, so there's the bag presence indicator that pushes down.
Which is, by this point, I'd call it a staple of the Electrolux.
It is a staple, and it's one of those features that I wish more companies would do a physical switch rather than like what Miele does with the bag dock that you can rip off. I think there's no way the customers can get this out easily.
No.
So when I think that's... Now here's a really advancedly molded little doodad. If you look here, this is...
This kind of technique
This has three pieces.
That's the kind of techniques that were used to make very expensive computer keyboard keys at that time.
Yeah, this is well, this is
Like something like
1979.
something like a model IBM Model M keyboard, this is actually a bit before the Model M, I think.
This is really, there's just things going on this machine that I've never seen anything of this style.
They used a lot
old.
of really interesting techniques to manufacture this machine. But were not used by manufacturers of vacuum cleaners at this time.
Yeah, they were just not used in vacuums. I never really saw a lot of these in consumer electronics either,
What amazes me is because at this time these are techniques that I would have thought were too expensive to be used by a vacuum manufacturer.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like it, but I did dishwash that. This all goes here. Oh, you know what all this is? So this goes in here. That I did not actually clean with anything. I'm going to toothbrush that real quick while it's out. The tape holding it together to keep vibration down was kind of cool too.
Yeah, it was a very well thought. Some engineers really went down to this machine and said, how can we build something that is... I think they were setting out to build the absolute best machine that they could.
I think they're trying to build the best upright. What's interesting is there are tools available for this, which I started the video off saying I didn't think there were tools, but I did find pictures of it online, so it does exist.
It was a simple it was the straight suction canister attachment kit that you could get with the canister. But the difference was
a thing you just plugged in here.
Yes, you opened the bag lid and then you attached this.
It had like a screw, like an old school Buster B.
Yes, it would latch into. At some point, I'll show you. You would turn these knobs and it would latch into these. These slots on either side of the machine. And then it had one of these connectors that went down into the bag. It was kind of an interesting. It struck me as a slight bit of an afterthought, like they didn't originally intend this machine to have attachments.
I don't believe they did.
I think it was something that was added later.
These are the screws.
In the design process, at least. It may have been a thing by the time the machine was released, but it was an afterthought in the engineering process.
I mean, I feel like they were going to sell a separate canister with this, almost the way this was made. Or, maybe there were enough Kirby people back then, and Hoover people who just didn't care about attachments. Maybe that was common enough. Do we know anybody who was alive and into vacuums back then? Like
a Model L would have been nice with this thing, I think.
Oh, Model L. I like the Model L.
A straight suction Model L for everything, and then use this on your carpet would have been a nice little combination.
I guess the Model L came after the Model G now that I think about it. I don't know why I was thinking
the Model
that
L actually came, I believe,
It was a budget machine, though, wasn't it? Well,
It was. The Model G was never a budget machine.
And the Model G is actually one of my favorite Electroluxes. I'd like to get one.
Well, that's considered one of the best Electroluxes ever built by just about anyone who cares about Electrolux.
Just remember rebuilding one in high school. It's great, you know.
Excellent machines. And my absolute favorite Electrolux, largely because it's the first for me, was the 1205.
1205.
And as I'm sure probably everybody that watches this already knows, I have the very first Electrolux I ever saw. I did not always. That was this summer.
Yeah.
We acquired this.
I really need to do a video on my childhood Electrolux. Would you happen to have one like it?
Yes.
That would be kind of a strange thing.
And I used to say I have one just like the first Electrolux I ever saw.
That's just so solid.
Like, believe it or not, the 1205 that was my very first Electrolux, that's now in my collection, is also one of the most pristinely preserved condition.
It was used in a church, you said.
It wasn't used. That's the problem, or the problem to us, but also the benefit.
The benefit, I'd say it's a benefit.
It had this, when I got the machine and cleaned it up, it was filthy from sitting around for so long.
You know what that is? It's G10. Mm-hmm. And it's not being used as a circuit board. It's literally being used to hold wires in place.
Again, a fairly expensive material.
Expensive, kind of strange to manufacture at the time.
You know, like I said, this machine, they spared no expense on this machine.
I believe it looking at this. Like,
I look at this machine and I think no expense was spared. They really... I mean, they could have spared some expense on this machine, and it still could have been every bit as good, but they didn't. They chose not to. They chose to spare no expense and build, and that's something you just don't really see these days very often.
Yeah,
the only modern machine I feel like is built that way is kind of the Rainbow.
Yeah, I don't think there's many expenses spared with the Rainbows. Like,
I know some people would say the fact they don't use screws to hold the majority of the machine together.
Well, that was done for prolonging it.
That was actually done because in a plastic screw boss, you can only screw and unscrew the screws so many times before that strips out and wears out. Also, they intended it to be easier to service, faster to service. And how many vacuum cleaners these days do you see where the engineering process is influenced by how easy is this machine going to be to service down the road? That's kind of an oddity.
That's not really done anymore.
No.
Somebody was saying, oh, you know, Dyson engineered this and that. No, Dyson engineers it to look good on TV. That was the purpose of this particular thing we were talking about.
Dyson largely expects you to buy the machine. They expect the machine to last 5 years, and then they expect any problems from then on, you just kind of throw it away, buy a new one.
So I've got some extra pieces here. Don't know where they go.
Well, that's nice.
That's great, yeah.
Well, let's see. Let's have a look. I think I see where one of them goes. I could be wrong.
I'm just looking.
Frequently wrong.
Oh, you know what? These? I know where these go. You know what? I do know where they all go.
Oh, yeah, that's
these are all pertaining to the cord. The cord. Let's go.
The cord.
The cord. They go right here for that cord.
Oh yeah, cord, that's what
this cord's really interesting because it's a cam lock. The way that this goes in is, again, somebody was thinking.
And largely, I feel the same about their canisters of this era and before as well. That they were really,
what canister would have been sold at this point? Was the Jubilee on it?
I believe this upright design. No, yours. I believe was out during the time of the Olympia.
Yeah. So
based on the colors, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in these uprights.
There wasn't much when I looked at them. There's not a whole lot going on. Even on vacuum when there wasn't a lot.
I feel like these machines got an unnecessarily mediocre reputation.
I think they got a reputation because they were rare.
Well, they were not very common. Electrolux at the time was not known for their uprights. They didn't sell a ton of them.
That's so cool how that goes on. Alright, so that just goes on there like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they weren't. They were trying to get into the upright game. That was the purpose of this.
And I feel like, I mean, as much as I love this machine, when they came up with the Discovery, which is the upright that everybody knows as the Electrolux upright, was also an excellent machine.
Discovery was another one of those machines. Just fucking fabulous. Like, what the fuck?
And my favorite thing about that is that, well, and didn't come out right away. The later models that you could put a electric hose
on there. Yeah, that was a really cool feature. All right. So now I've been doing some of this off frame. I apologize about that.
Oh, you know, get what you pay for with the camera work, right?
yeah, man, self camera. You see these YouTube channels? I don't know what happened here.
Who knows?
I see these YouTube channels and they have like production crews and I'm like, it's a TV show you mean? At that point. So we have 3 mystery. Oh, I know where these go too.
Well, yeah, call them mystery screws, and now I think those screws you've got down there are actually these are just 3. Never mind.
So I remember where all this goes. What I do also remember is putting this all together. This thing was a pain. I do remember that. Taking this off. So this guy goes on. Again, there's just a bunch of detail going on here that just shouldn't be for what this is.
I mean, it was over-engineered. I don't think we can deny that.
I think it was completely over-engineered. I think I'm doing this. Am I doing it wrong?
No.
Am I doing it wrong?
No.
Oh, because over it. Okay.
Yeah, you just gotta go over it. Yeah, that hides the yellow plastic.
That's no, the yellow plastic goes on top.
Really? I didn't remember that being visible.
Yeah, well, it isn't once this lid is shut. Because I remember the buttons having to press the buttons and thinking that I was going to break the buttons when I pulled this off.
My lack of bags and the fact that my bag stinks and now the machine stinks has reduced my ability to play with and familiarize myself with these machines.
Yeah, see how that goes on there?
Yeah, okay.
See how all that sits in there?
That is correct.
That is correcto mundo! This, there should be one more washer. I think this is it. Yeah.
And you don't want to put those screws in yet. Because those screws the reason these screws are so big, seemingly huge for holding on this cover, is because they're also what holds the handle in place.
Again, this handle's like stamped, molded. I think the top let down cord is maybe my favorite feature of these old Electroluxes. Because they were the first ones really to do that. Of course, putting this in now. All of this shit has been through the dishwasher.
I wouldn't bother with that yet. You want to get that cover on first, I think.
Well, so there's screws here go on the bottom of the cover. I only have 3, and that's how it came to me, but these actually wiggled loose during use. So I could Loctite them, I suppose. But I feel like it's unnecessary.
Well, I don't think you're going to use it enough to matter. And considering the difficulty in finding bags for this machine.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was such a difficulty because I've worked in vacuum shops that had them on the stock.
Normally, I have zero shame in using vintage. Electroluxes are one of the vintage machines I feel make very good daily drivers because they were actually quite common. I know in some areas of the country not so much, but here they were common. Back east they were common. Parts are reasonably easy to find. And
this is really a rare machine, literally.
These were not common.
Part of the reason upon taking this whole thing apart was just to preserve it. Was more of the because I knew there was stuff, old dust rotting in there. I knew the bag is.
Yeah, and that's why I want to make it so I can play with it, show it off without stinking up the house or being all grody old.
Even though I always have air purifiers going, I still think this is like a.
Well, you still might as well put the machine in good condition.
Is that a 1 or 2 layer paper bag?
Single layer.
I feel like one of these screws is fucked up in here. The threads.
It's probably why it was only got 3. Somebody else had it apart years ago at the Electrolux service office, and they went to screw it back in, and that was that. It was over.
This goes in. Again, there's just so much overbuilt the way that goes in there like that.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad.
So that actually is
And that also
there.
functions as a carrying handle.
Yeah, so that's why it's interchangeable. And
that's also another reason why it's got so large.
Apparently they had problems with the carry handles breaking.
I thought what they had problems with was the upper handle breaking, people carrying it by that.
I don't know which broke, but there was something actually changed the screws later on, apparently. Again, this screw came to me without a washer on one of these. I thought that was peculiar.
Somebody's been in, I mean, I'd venture a bet what they changed was the cord.
I bet that's why this had to be opened.
Or a switch, perhaps.
Yeah, the cord does kind of look newer now that you mention it.
But, you know, it's hard to say. They could have, any one part could have failed back when the machine was new and it had to be taken apart.
Yeah, we're going to move this over here so this is only touching the carpet, my soft carpet.
You do have genuine, proper soft carpet.
I do
in
have
your
general
house.
proper soft carpet. The kind that people are like, my vacuum doesn't work on. So I'm curious to see, because this has like a shag setting, this has all that stuff.
And the interesting thing about the height adjustment was it moved all four wheels.
Yeah, that is...
It didn't just move, most machines either move the back wheels or the front wheels.
You know, I didn't notice that.
Oh, that's one of the things I've always known.
I
It was pointed out
one.
to me the first time I ever saw one of these machines. Somebody, I want to say it was, I don't know. It was the first time I ever saw one of these Electrolux uprights in person was the 2004 VCCC convention in Itasca, Illinois.
So, is there ever going to be a West Coast vacuum cleaner meet? That would be something.
Well, they had one in LA back in '05.
Okay, that's the wrong way. I just did that. I'm doing it wrong!
Oh, not again.
God damn it. Stuff's so weird.
They had one out on, and well, this they did have a West Coast one. It was up in the Northwest, but this last one they had was in Spokane.
And has there ever been like a no code?
Colorado?
Oh, Colorado, Utah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Nuevo Mexico, you know, those places.
I think there was one in Phoenix. That was when I was in exile.
Exile.
Yes, I was exiled.
When were you exiled?
Oh, we're not getting into that. But there was one down in, I want to say Phoenix, but I could be totally, no, was it Texas?
Okay, this is just
Try
a plug
both.
here. And I couldn't figure out what this was for. It was just there.
Ah, you want to know what that is. Well, what's on the other side of it? Take it out. Gently.
It does not come out. Oh, that's where the bellow is to adjust it?
Oh, maybe. But I thought it lined up. Oh, yeah, no, I'm right.
What's that hole for?
It's an unclogging port.
To stick a snake through?
It's because that's right at the bend where the dirt comes
Okay.
in here. And originally, and I can tell yours is an earlier machine. Originally, there was a somewhere down here on these machines, there was a little thing that would slide out, and you'd get this rod for unclogging it. They did.
Really?
That was only on the ones that matched the Super J, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. First one I ever saw had it.
Please don't break on me. These clips are just, this whole thing is just really cool how it comes together, but now that the plastic is old, brittle,
Although this plastic's held up better than some plastics.
it really has, but it's still, the clip, this clip was broken. My fault.
I would put a little
like,
dab of silicone on it.
yeah, I feel like I committed an ultimate sin breaking this clip.
Well,
I took it apart, but
I mean,
it was...
sometimes that stuff's unavoidable. Even on new machines, I find that sometimes
On a
things
new
like
machine, I can order the part
that's
for...
the difference, yes. You can get the part.
Oh, I stuck them under my magnet tray.
Nah.
Oh, these are crusty. Now, I know these are chromed, but they are rusted. Do you think these are worth sandblasting? At least you get the rust off the back.
I guess. I don't know. That's not a process I'm used to having in hand.
Let's find out. So I decided to bead blast these real quick. The rust was pretty bad, but light coat of oil on there, that will keep those for another day. This thing's heavy. Get it up. It's pretty heavy for what it is.
It's mostly plastic.
Yeah, it's.
But I've always held fast to the argument: plastic can be every bit as, if not sometimes more durable than metal.
That's not going anywhere, dude.
No, I think that's fine.
That's not going anywhere. I agree that plastic can be,
Especially when
right,
you look at when you look at the base housing on this. I don't think it would have held up nearly as. I think it would have been.
Speaking of,
that is an incredibly.
It is
durable part.
I don't think anybody's going to argue that this base housing isn't like the shit. You know, this is great.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of corrosion here, and that is from the dishwasher. I put it in like that. Nobody's commented that I shouldn't have put in anything in the dishwasher yet. I thought that
It's a fairly standard thing for old-time collectors.
Okay, I thought somebody. So you were saying
Clay Floyd. That is where I learned about dishwashers. Old-timers like Clay Floyd.
Oh damn, that is super weird that all four wheels move. That is super weird.
But it's also kind of brilliant.
I think the whole machine is brilliant. I think we can just assume
Yeah.
that the person who designed this. I'm putting oil on all the points because again, this was in the dishwasher.
Well, and even if it hasn't been in the dishwasher, it's still a good habit to lubricate it all.
I like to lubricate wheels.
I like a smooth. Not only do I love a good mechanism,
Smooth.
but I also like it when it operates smoothly. Don't forget that with it.
Yeah, we're still going.
The fulcrum. Shout out to anybody who watches the Blacklist. You know, that's the fulcrum.
This mechanism, this is so cool,
isn't it?
So we're gonna lowride this machine. I think where we put it together. Why not?
We'll just slam this one to the floor.
Slam it to the floor. Stance Nation right there. Stance Nation.
Oh goodness!
If you've ever seen those kids, like. When I was into like cars and racing, we were trying to make them faster. I think now kids just care how they look.
Yeah. I care more about not, I like to, when I pull up into a parking spot, there's a curb there or one of those things. I want the wheels to bump it. I
want the curb to be tall, to not wreck my wife's car. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's too low to the ground for my standards. But
my wife's car, yeah, it's kind of low, but I mean, she wanted the sports package. That was her decision.
Well, I mean, considering, I guarantee probably the standard version of that is still, I consider too low to the ground.
It's a whole inch higher.
Yeah, an inch. I like SUVs. You know, I want a nice truck-based SUV.
I want a Unimog. Fuck your truck. I want a Unimog.
Well, that would be nice. That would be nice too.
Comment below if you know what the hell a Unimog is.
That would be a fun thing to drive. That's something I'd drive to work every day. I know I'm nuts, but...
Oh, dude, the diesel... So the one thing was sad, I knew it was broken from when I got it, by the way, was this little lever on this side.
Oh, we'll just have to...
Broken, but it still stays upright.
When that milling machine is finally functional, you can just mill yourself a new one out of Delrin. Delrin.
And can I get Delrin easily? Is Delrin available? I thought that was like something... I thought only like...
Oh no! I mean, you can buy chunks of Delrin, I believe. Let's look it up on McMaster Car, shall we?
Yeah, I'm using the wrong screwdriver for that.
So that's an app. I want the website.
But yeah, apparently they later went to metal with those. I was reading.
Oh.
So the fact that it has a plastic one is kind of...
Well, you could mill one out of metal as well.
I mean, I've got chunks of... I'd want to use steel for that. I don't think I'd want to use...
My choice would be Delrin. Plastic, but, you know.
Guess we could. Yeah, that'd be quite the thing when I have a milling machine. I wonder if anybody will take advantage of me making parts for them.
Lubricating, material handling, hardware.
Where's the other one I just...
Raw materials, there we go. Foam insulation plastics. see. They don't call it Delrin if that's what they call it. What's another name for Delrin? Do you have any
I
idea?
thought you were talking about the shit they made compacts out of.
No, that's Magnolite. That's a metal. Delrin is a white plastic, usually.
What's made out of Delrin that I've seen?
Bernina cams.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They only crack because they machined... Back when Delrin was stupid expensive, they would machine out and hollow them out to where they were a little too thin. The later versions of those machines...
they just cracked because they were dried out.
No, it's because they were too thin. They didn't leave enough meat on them because Delrin was just so expensive. They would machine them out hollow after they molded them.
Reggie, would you hold this while I putz around with this real quick?
But yes, Delrin is a very hard... Delrin also, sewing machine gears. Some of those Bernina gears that were plastic, the old machines especially, were made out of Delrin.
You know, people are constantly... They'll have a Bernina 800 or they'll have a Bernina 700 series and they'll be like, it's made out of all metal. I'm like, no, that shit has plastic gears in it. What are you talking about?
Our Bernina guy says that if you don't get the gears aligned properly, the Delrin gear will actually chew up the metal gear.
Yeah. Well, I just know that that's the way it is.
The Delrin is actually harder than the metal gear. The Delrin gear is actually a harder material.
So both of these, let's not have this.
Well, that would probably do more for you right there.
Because I'm always doing the video game on the highest setting. You know, I gotta do it the hardest way.
I always say work smarter, not harder, but you know, I'm all about easy.
That one.
Because you know, another song reference. We got a good reason for taking the easy way out.
Oh,
always.
Trooper.
Yeah.
Alright. So that's really kind of cool how all that just kind of flew together.
It's like shims, plastic composites.
You're like trying to find. When the time comes, you can find it. How about that?
It doesn't say. I gotta look it up by a different name. I know it is.
So I put one part on wrong. You can see right there. We're gonna have to go back and redo it, but I want everybody to see my mistake.
How did you screw up? Oh, I see what you said.
And that's the placement of this.
You sure did. You sure brisked that cat.
Luckily, I think that will just come out.
Well, let's hope for your sake, my friend. Oop. Merrily Poppins right out.
Merrily Poppins right out. So that goes like this. That is the correct order. Yeah, that's gonna be tight in there. I thought, well, there should be a gasket down there. No, that's really
Guten tight.
It's guten tight.
Like a favorite German Fräulein.
And now you put this together.
Oh, yeah, you gotta line that thing up.
Cam up. It's just, again, really well thought out that they did that. Alright, so there's that.
Uh-oh. Sally went for a ride.
What?
Silicon Sally.
Oh, did Silicon Sally go for a ride over here?
Ride, right. Sally, ride.
Alright, that fixed. So actually, the next thing I gotta do, I was getting all ahead of myself. I gotta put this thing in. This thing's rusted. Think I should just spray oil on that and call that good?
Yes.
I'm not gonna be able to bead blast thing.
No.
Get the beads
do not bead blast that thing. Do not.
Let's use my favorite generic water displacer.
And it's rusty. It's got surface rust on it, largely just because of the steel alloy that it is.
Yeah. It's a lot of spring steel is not stainless.
Yeah, it's not a very rust-resistant alloy, but that's okay.
Now the thing about this is winding this spring is going to be fun because I got to put it on and then tilt it back and wind it. That will be. Now we should see one long machine screw somewhere.
Perhaps that one you're holding.
But there's two of these.
Oh.
So that leads me to believe this is the one.
Is there a washer on it?
I think think this has a grip on the back of it. Yeah, see there's a grip on the back
Oh
of it.
yeah, and I see the marks.
See the marks there,
So
yeah.
no washer.
No washer. I would have actually thrown grease in between here usually. We might have to pause and go look for my grease.
I'll just spray some Pledge on it and call it a day. Oh, we actually did it. I was expecting a snarky comment reply.
Yeah, that will work. It's got silicone on it. That'll work. That'll do.
That'll do, pig.
Silicone Sally and Pledge.
Well, Pledge is a silicone. That's why I said it. Because you don't have any of that WD-40 silicone spray, so.
Speaking of Pledge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What is this stuff?
That is
It's not
cast
aluminum.
aluminum. It is cast aluminum. It's just high grade. It's not pot metal. It's actual a nice aluminum alloy.
But why is it not corroded like aluminum usually does like that? Yeah, it's an alloy is what I'm saying. Like it can't just be just aluminum. It's not like a Kirby in that way.
Well, Kirby's. I mean, I know this is gonna attract. Kirby's were actually made of pot metal, especially in later years. It was not necessarily the highest grade aluminum.
It's not high grade aluminum, I can tell you that.
And I learned that shit the hard way. It was a hard learned lesson that they were made out of pot metal.
Well, what made that? I just knew the stuff was like chintzier than my bike frame. But
I mean, the thing is, I mean, you know, I say this. It was strong enough for what it is. You know, it had the structural integrity to do what it needed to do, but it was not above and beyond that. That was an expense they spared.
well, I just never understood why they were.
That's why.
I would have
That's why
powder-coated
Kirby had to go to a plastic fan, and Royal was able to, up till they quit making the metal uprights, go with metal fan.
Don't say they quit making metal uprights, dude. You're gonna have a barrage of people who are upset at you.
Well, for household use, and I don't think they're moving hardly any of those things for.
They're not selling. They haven't
commercial
sold them commercial for years, dude. No, in reality, but I will say, I got
use. As much as I dearly love those machines, don't get me wrong.
I never really cared for the later ones.
Well, they did get kind of cheap at the end. They got
That's
cheap.
why I don't care
The
for them. I
motor
like
shafts
the American ones a lot better.
The motor shaft, oh, for sure. No, when they went to China, they did cheap out some things. Like the motor shafts would bend really easily, and you'd get
yes,
this
they would.
vibration. It was very sad to see a once, you know, incredibly high quality, durable, well-built machine be cheapened.
And the thing I think a lot of people don't understand, Reggie, is just because one air.
And that's one thing I will
machine
say.
lasted-
Kirby, I don't feel has compromised the quality of their machine over the years.
No, Kirby also hasn't changed ownership.
No, that's true, and they're still making them in America.
Mostly.
But I mean, you know,
There's some parts that they have to make, but I think they're probably the most made in America machine I can think of next Rainbow.
right up to the Rainbow.
Maybe some of the Arius products.
Although a lot of that's made in Mexico these days.
You know, I don't have a problem with stuff made in Mexico. Damn, it's gotta be very.
Really, I mean, the thing is, anymore, these international manufacturing, largely the only reason it's cheap is because that's what the company
asked for.
Yeah, the parent company is demanding of the
Right.
factories.
So here's the true thing.
I've seen some very high quality product come out of China.
Right, I have too.
Kaboing.
Combine. I was like, I don't know how we're gonna wind this spring.
Do you want to know how? I made the mistake of letting one of these springs go kaboing once, and again, another hard lesson learned, but one well worth learning. Alright, we're going to need to shift this in a way that I don't come down on the camera. You, my friend...
Press the button.
Oh yeah, that might help.
You're gonna push down and I'm gonna put this thing on, huh?
That's about the long and short of it, my friend. Okay, we gotta do... That's what you did again. Gotta push the button again. Kaboing!
Kaboing! So somebody's gonna be listening with headphones and it's gonna scare the shit out of me.
They watched me jump. Yeah, this was a bit of a bitch. Just a titty bit inconvenient.
Almost positive 2 of them are these things. The other 2 I know are the security screws.
Still got the jitters from that shit. Oh my.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Yeah, you're gonna put these in. Oh, these are shit. These are these screws. I meant to go get new ones of these at the hardware store today.
Well, we brisked that cat, didn't we?
What are the other screws that go in there? They are some sort of. They are these. These are the screws that go in there.
Well, now that these are out, if you were to jig these up in a drill press, you could take that pin out.
You think I could drill that out? Aren't they hardened steel?
I've drilled those things out before in desperation.
Well, so you want to push down and do the lever, or do you want me to do the screwdriver?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know no part of this. Oh Lord, we're going to be regretting all this sometimes soon.
I think since I'm gonna just be the man here, Reggie. Don't take offense.
Oh, one taken.
Oh,
no offense, one taken. Oh, these aren't even the right screws for the front here.
No, those are for the rear. I handed you the ones for the front.
Oh, God. You gotta be more of a man.
Okay. We're gonna actually do this off camera because I'm gonna have to do some ugly things here, like move the camera. Okay, with the toothbrush, we're just gonna take. You can actually take these apart, but this one doesn't need to come apart, and I'm feeling lazy. No, people are gonna be like, "You half-assed." No, it's just not that dirty. It's actually in pretty good condition.
Yeah, surprisingly. I'd venture a bet that before this machine was totally retired that this thing had a new brush and bearings put in it.
I believe that, or I believe it was like some little old lady had it and couldn't use it ever.
That's possible too.
But yeah, it was. It does seem like it sat for a long, long time, judging by the rust. And the rust in New Mexico is a weird thing because it's not common. You don't have rust in cars there, so the
swamp coolers.
I suppose.
I hate swamp coolers, but that's a rant for another day.
That's a rant for another day. See how smooth that is, Reggie?
Why? It's so smooth it makes a baby's ass seem rough by comparison.
Yeah, it's fucking smooth, dude. Scrub that. Why do you think Electrolux never used ball bearings in their brush rollers until, like, they were real late in the game on that?
You want to know? I have some very interesting opinions about brush bearings.
Well,
if they are maintained properly, designed properly, and if the whole mechanism is designed properly, a sleeve bearing is actually smoother and more long-lived than a ball bearing.
Well,
because
I'll just agree with you.
In the ideal circumstances, now again,
vacuums are never the ideal circumstances.
Yeah, nothing is ever ideal, but in theory, ideally, the two metal surfaces never come into contact because they're constantly riding on a film of oil. So in a properly designed arrangement, a sleeve bearing is actually better, but they don't take a lot of force. That's why you don't see sleeve bearings so much on as soon as they could. Any machine that used a flat belt went to ball bearings on anything that had tension on it. Electrolux held out so long because they used geared belts that did not put any I don't remember the lateral forces on the bearings.
They don't put a lot of force on the bearing. You don't tighten an Electrolux belt like you would like some belts.
Well, you never really want the geared belts to be overly tight.
No, you
always
want
want
loose
slack.
like a bike chain.
Yes.
Because essentially they are a chain.
Yes, it's more like a chain than a belt. You're right.
I think the best part is this has original belts in it. And that's so like something to me like this machine. We're talking about like the industry standard and all yada yada yada.
Well, yeah.
The fact that this was the 1970s and
My
You didn't need to change the belt? Why? I guess they did that on their canisters.
1959. Electrolux introduced their power nozzle in 1959, and from day one, they used geared belts.
So why, like, I understand if it's a budget vacuum, but I don't understand on, like, Kenmore,
1959, same year, had a much less advanced power nozzle. The very first power head, 1958. The first geared, it was gear driven, there was no belt, it was just gear. And then it went from gear driven to geared belt. So really the very first canister, now I know some people like to split hairs and say Airway invented the power nozzle in the 20s with their, or 30s with their two-motor upright. But I'm talking about the concept of putting a canister and power nozzle together was invented in 1958 by Lewitt.
By do it with Lewitt?
Yes.
Like Lewitt, like, okay.
And I don't consider I consider the dual motor upright to be an equally important but totally different concept. Yes, it technically is a power nozzle, but I don't consider it, you know, when I say who invented the power nozzle, I'm referring to a canister vacuum situation.
Okay, I get what you're putting down.
You know, it's one of those things where it's like,
I'm not going to get, you know, there are some things I will not.
you got that backwards.
I do get that backwards.
Just think like a SIBO.
I have, you know, this is, the rest of this is so SIBO.
Well, you know, I would venture a bet. We're venturing lots of bets here.
That SIBO saw this.
That SIBO's engineers looked at this and said, "That's brilliant."
I would
looked
bet
at
this
this
was
and said,
probably,
"That's brilliant." I looked at the SIBO design and said,
I think
"That's brilliant."
if it was 79, early 80s, if you were sniffing coke in the 80s and designing vacuums, if you didn't look at this design and think it was brilliant, you were out of your mind.
What's that now?
What?
What does that just sit in there?
What? Oh, screws going there.
Oh, I
See, do you see the four wise men?
I do. Four wise men. What the hell? What the hell kind of Christmas story is this?
Four wise men. Well, you know, how many wise men should there be?
3.
Oh, I thought that was 3 musketeers.
Oh my goodness, Rachel Louise.
You gonna educate this Jewish boy on the?
Oh, you already know. You're just.
I do.
As Colin says, taking the bris.
I'm giving the bris here.
You're brissing the cat.
Giving the bris. No, I actually couldn't recall how many. I thought there were 5 actually.
Well, they say that the old story is 3, but I've heard that there were more than 3. So I think you are actually correct in all technicality.
But let's not get into Bible discussion while we're doing a vacuum.
We're not worried about how many wise men. That does not relate to this.
And I really don't ever want to get in an internet. I like internet arguments, but I don't want to get in an internet argument involving religion ever. That's not something.
I personally simply am not an expert in that, so I'm not one to make arguments.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
I'm just making Christmas story comments.
I'm going to
what's this?
Move the camera here probably because I want you all to see the mechanism on the other side.
Yes.
Okay, show you this mechanism, the SIBO clutch. We've moved the camera to the other side because I just want you to see this because it's so cool. And we're going to continue putting in screws where I think they belong.
Now we're putting screws in everything.
What's interesting is they put some grommets in here, but not grommets all the way around. So some of these are the self-tapping plastic screw things. Some of these are sitting in proper grommets in their decision-making processes.
It's not a grommet. It's a threaded insert.
Threaded insert. How proper. What's interesting, the motor is on rubber motor mounts. That is, like I said, when I was taking it apart, it's just fucking genius.
Electrolux canisters have always been like that. If you think about it, it's true.
It is, yeah, they always have that big rubber thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess TriStars were like that too.
Yes. That was also a combination gasket. They always molded in Electrolux. It was always one piece, but it was always a decided cushion aspect to it.
Speaking of cushions,
I pledge
to keep those
to
rubber
lube my
wet.
cushions.
Yeah. Now, the one gasket I pledged a few times in here is going to take a dump at some point. So one day I'm going to go to use this machine. I'm not going to have any suction. I know
Which
exactly.
gasket's this?
The black one in here, not the red one.
Black one in there.
The other black one.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but that's, you know what? Again, I gave it pledge. I'm not going to use it that often.
Well, God forbid it happens. You could probably use a big tube of heat shrink or something.
Yeah, I could just get this section of rubber.
Or you could just send it to the crusher. Good Lord, no.
Oh, God. No.
Oh, people still take me seriously when I post a picture of some really nice vintage machine or a rare one, and I just, oh no, this one's going to the crusher.
That would be H-pad.
Oh God! See, that's the thing. I joke
He
about it.
apologized though. He said he wouldn't smash vintage things. Like I give the kid props for saying that at least. Whether he does it or not is another story. I don't want to use a screwdriver like that. I think I have.
Likes to drive his nuts with a nut driver.
Proper.
Oh, no, a socket.
Yeah, I think that.
Why don't you have some proper nut drivers for
You know what?
driving your nuts?
That's on the list of things to do. So we're going to do this, and we're going to set the clutch to 1.
You put it on there and it seems
Not strong enough.
I find
Five.
that 5 or 6 is
I was going to hand tighten it.
Well, I believe it or not, exhaustive research, at least on these Hitachis, has shown that
These.
between 5 and 6 on these drills is hand tight.
I've figured that out just from experience. Okay.
Don't get your hands too close to that shit. You want to lose a finger.
Does that motor look straight in there before tightening everything up? Seems to actually, I don't think there's actually a lot of play to move this motor like there is in a power head. I think we're good.
Yes. The plug is in that.
In this?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
Motor stays put.
Motors.
The belt tensions are adjusted by centering that in the belt.
Yeah, those are tight. Cool. So, that just seems way too loosey-goosey.
What you probably need to do is loosen those screws a bit and slide that mechanism
I think I
back
need to
a
do it
titty
with
bit.
the brush roller installed though.
Oh, yeah, because that will be very loosey-goosey without the brush roll keeping that thing.
And then there is a piece of sheet metal that I saw.
Sheet.
So we're down to the last screws here. The piece of sheet metal that goes.
I was wondering where that went.
I saw it earlier. The vacuum is probably on top of it.
As soon as you move it, it's going to go shpoing. Shpoing. Oh, there it is.
And it didn't go spoiling.
Fabulous.
Yeah, again, this one screw, and then we're going to use the plastic mold to hold it straight, is so advanced for its time. I can't believe they did this back then. And what I've been doing is I've just been hand starting it. Okay. And the brush roller is down there. Give you an idea of the condition my brush roller's in. I think I need to hit that with the wire wheel. That looks pretty good.
Oh no, I think that's...
I think we're good.
It's looking lavish with McTavish right there.
I think the only thing I'm going to do is work the one end a little bit with some denatured. Just get that nice and clean, and then this thing's just going to breathe some tri-flow into it. Just that. It's brilliant. So I never understood like the brush rollers that they go in like. Was that like a quick change brush roller back in the day? Because you were only doing one size. That was the purpose of that.
It was so you could change it without taking the thing apart to the point of messing with the belts.
Yeah.
Power nozzles were built that way too.
So we're gonna set this whole thing on its side, right where the chemicals are.
It's gonna go boing.
It's gonna go boing anyways. It's gonna be boing. It's gonna be like Crash Bandicoot going boing. That dishwasher got this thing fucking just so clean.
It's not a dishwasher.
It's a dishwasher.
Yeah, I told some people they needed to buy a Bosch dishwasher. They bought a Whirlpool. Let me tell you, they should have bought a Bosch.
I think it was Rick. Who was telling me he watches my videos. And I'm sorry I forgot your name, but you've messaged me a whole bunch of time, and I'm bad with names. That's why we have your name. Your username is next to your message, so I know who you are. But doing this at this hour, I don't remember. Point is, there was a guy who messaged me who said that I influenced him to buy a dishwasher, and I was really touched by that.
Yes. Well, we only want to influence people to buy quality products here. We're not interested in getting any fan mail saying, "You asshole, you told me to buy this and it's horrible."
Nobody's sent me one of those yet. I'm worried that somebody's not going to understand my point, and I'm going to say hashtag shark is best vacuum, and they're going to think I'm serious.
Oh no, my friend. That would be horrible.
That's like... Alright, this is really stiff to go on there. I think we're lined up. Yeah, we're lined up.
It's popping things loose.
Pop this thing loose over here. This is...
Pop that thing. Oh dear.
Hey, it's no virgin. It says cherry popped. Demonetized. Oh, there's one... Is there supposed to be a washer on this? No.
No. I don't know.
There's not a washer on this one.
Probably missed that one.
Alright, let's go.
Missed that one.
Alright. That's on there. So now, I'm just going to put the metal plate on. And the purpose of the metal plate, in my opinion, is to make the base glide easier.
Yes.
It's not so much...
Well, it also does, because if you've seen the plastic ones, that the carpet sometimes, cheap plastic especially, will cut and wear grooves into it.
Yeah, like sand or something in the carpet.
But it is largely to slide.
Yeah.
Believe it or not...
Do you think they should polish that?
No. Believe it or not, one manufacturer actually made a Teflon coated bottom plate.
Who made that? That's a genius idea. Cheaper than using steel, too.
It was a cast aluminum bottom plate with a gray Teflon coating.
Who made that?
Care to venture a guess? It's a machine that is both famous and infamous. I love the machine dearly, but there's some people that truly hate them. It was
Rainbow?
early 2000s. It's an upright machine.
I'm going to redo this, by the way.
Upright machine made in the early 2000s. A clean air dual motor machine.
Clean air dual motor machine.
Yeah. It had a chrome steel agitator driven by a geared belt in the center, powered by a permanent magnet DC motor.
Dyson?
No, one of the biggest shortcomings of this is that the manufacturer never made good bags for it. They sold you cheap bags from their disposable line of vacuums with this machine. And they leaked dust like a sieve, which abbreviated the motor life. We'd like to use that one. That's a shout out to Colin. Abbreviated motor life.
You really got me stumped. You're giving me all the wrong hints of what the vacuum
I
is.
know I am.
Just tell us.
It was heavy as hell. But damn, it looks cool. And damn, it's fun
Power
to use.
cast.
Yes.
Oh, that makes sense now. Hate it.
Sort of a modern day.
Yeah,
Although I would say this one had fewer shortcomings.
I would say,
design-wise.
other than the bag on this machine,
Which was standard for the
for
day.
time, this and the weight, this is. Oh, it doesn't have a swivel neck. Like this is.
Well,
that's,
that was not even a thing at that time.
It was a thing. They had it on canisters. I disagree. It wasn't.
Not
a
on
thing.
power heads.
1979.
But
When
we
did
had a
the
swivel steer
what's
machine.
that other what's the swivel steer machine?
Oh, true. There was a swivel steer machine that came
they-
well before in the I think it was 30s.
Well,
There was a swivel steer upright made by Apex, which had that articulating like what we see on the Dysons and the Mieles.
I was thinking completely the other side of the world, dude. I was thinking, what's that machine? We don't get their machines here anymore, but it was like it was a dual motor machine from the 70s that was commercially sold. And I cannot pronounce their name, but it's a European manufacturer.
Husqvarna?
Not Husqvarna. It's
You gotta give me something that I'm familiar with.
You have 2 of them.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah. They're like not Visselbeck, but they sound like that.
Oh, yes. And we can get their machines here still. Vorwerk, if we want to use
Vorwerk, yeah.
If we want to, most people would say Vorwerk.
You can see our struggle right here.
But we're going to be particular and use the proper German pronunciation. Vorwerk.
Vorwerk. If I can,
The V sounds like an F and the W sounds like a V.
I think I'm just doing this wrong again. That's going to be the title of this video. You're going to see big
yes,
title.
I do have 2 of them.
That's a machine nobody fucking knows about.
I think a lot of collectors do.
I'm talking about just people in general. I bet you if I called the vacuum shop and asked if they had parts for that, they would say, "Excuse me?"
Oh, they'd probably pretend to know what you were talking about and say they don't make them anymore. Come in and buy a Miele.
Well, that's... I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying a Miele. There's something wrong with misinforming a customer.
Yeah, no, it's just it's not made anymore thing.
Yeah. And
Well, if they don't know about the company and they don't want to deal with it, they just tell you they're out of business buying a vacuum.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a Miele, whatever exactly machine they're pushing.
I think there are probably more vacuum shops these days probably sell recur beef.
Yeah, the Miele ride is kind of coming to
Yeah, the Miele ride's coming to an end at local.
They're starting to squeeze us on the profit margins. They're starting to sell a lot more online and in big box
No,
stores.
that's where the money is.
Well, that's how manufacturers tend to go. They start out in the... They ride the independent vac shop market until they can feel that they're large enough to push the volume through other means, and then they just abandon us.
Yeah, that's
It's
exactly.
happened time and time.
And part of
again.
that's independent vac shops for just a lot of them for just not conducting good business.
Well, there is a lot of bad business out there, unfortunately, because there's also a lot of excellent shops out there.
There are a lot of excellent shops, so I would say there are 50% of vac stores are just bad.
There are, and I
I
mean,
hate to say that's the number, but that's the number. Maybe higher. All right, dude. We're gonna put this lid on now, which requires winding the spring. We're gonna again have to move the camera. So the reason we had to do this off camera is I couldn't get the camera where I felt it was safe in case the spring moved.
hell, I couldn't get myself in a place where I thought it was
But
safe.
basically, there's like a pin that you pin through the back of this. It's like an Allen wrench or something. But it's kind of hard to put this piece on and do that.
There was a special tool that we do not have access to.
Yeah, so that's what I think went on back in the day. So what we ended up doing is taking vice grips, putting it on, then with the help of another person, holding this in place, putting the screws in, and then putting it back up with the vice grips attached, and then using a screwdriver locked in like this, releasing the vice grips, letting the spring hit against the screwdriver, and then using the screwdriver
Let's
to
just
slowly...
put it this way. It required an excessive rate of undue dickerance, but we got it.
Yeah, it is kind of a dangerous thing, because it is a pretty...
Don't try this one yourself.
As always, don't try this at home. I think they say that in every video, and like people a lot of people comment on that. That's kind of something I think is pretty funny.
You could easily break a finger on that thing. Let me just tell
you
you that.
definitely could easily do something you don't want to do. As you can see from the variety of tools that are out right now, usually my bench is pretty clean. So I think
I'm convinced there's got to be either there's a tool or we put it together in the wrong order or something. I don't know, but there's some trick to that that I don't know.
so. We're gonna put these screws in right here.
Well, that can't be.
What's in it? And there's this piece of molded rubber right here, so that base plate makes a good seal, and then it uses the bumper to make a seal against the rest of the base plate. Like there is a lot of smart things going on in this machine. Excuse me. So that's how we do that. Now the WD-40 that I coated that spring with seems to be leaking down the bottom of this. Let's get some denatured on that, resolve any of that so it doesn't get stained on the carpet when I do a house cleaning with this. So, I do not test it when it was all apart to make sure it turned on. So we're going to hope it turns on.
It won't.
It won't. No, there's no light on this. There was like lots of room like they were going to put a light, but there was no light on that.
As the machine is right now, it will not turn on. Anyone care to venture a bet as to why?
Oh, I know why.
Oh, yeah.
I bet nobody else would have noticed that. And I've seen vacuum techs struggle with that on the canisters.
Oh, I know.
Alright.
Uh-oh. Well, that's not good.
Well, I want to give you a big thank you if you sat through this entire video, as the rebuild process of this machine was a little bit more than it usually is. Special thanks to Mr. Compact 9 for coming over here, and while we were just hanging out the other night, I mentioned I had this apart, and he helped me through part of this video, so special thanks to him. And special thanks to our Patreon supporters who help keep this channel going. And what do Patreon supporters end up paying for? Well, I just want to mention they've paid for a tripod. They've paid for various vacuums for us to review, and hopefully in the future they can help us grow into a 4K format and get different testing tools like a particle counter, that sort of thing. Though if you are a Patreon supporter and you want to see something else, definitely hit us up. We are well able to be reached. So the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to power this bad boy up and vacuum with it. Certainly smells better. It sounds alright for a vacuum that's 40 plus years old. Still going to have to address the labels that are peeling off a little bit, and I might have to give it a little bit more of a buffing, but it turned out alright, all things considered. So as always, please like, subscribe, and thank you for everybody who supports the channel in one way or another.